Fox 8 Sports. This is the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership.
The far side, Hill takes a gun snap, belt high, steps up, throws over the middle, has a man wide open. That's Lil Jordan Humphreys across the 5, stiff arms into the end zone. Lil Jordan Humphreys with the play of the game so far, 33 yards, and Taysom Hill with his first touchdown strike of the game.
Happy birthday to us, and welcome into year 5 of the Black and Gold Review Show. The gang is back together. Deuce McAllister, Sean Vazan, I'm Juan Kincaid. Happy 5th anniversary. The customary wedding gift is wood. Where's Reggie Bush when you need him? Bringing the wood,
Bring
baby.
the wood. Bring the wood for another year.
Yes, yes.
You know all about that.
I like it.
You like it.
I love the results of that. That's why.
All right, let's get you right to the headlines. A lot to talk about on this show. Year number 5, getting away on the bang. Headline number 1, defense lacks detail and assignment. That starting 11 minus Cam Jordan struggled to get off the field and struggled to get pressure against the Vikings.
And I think it starts with the first third down play of the game. You had a blitz on, and I mean, you're inches away from making that play, but when the quarterback is able to run for a first down, Kirk Cousins, that just gives them more plays, more opportunities, and there we see the results. You know, Eli's in pretty good position. He just loses the ball, and if he's able to find that ball, we feel like that's an incomplete pass, but outstanding job by Adam Thielen.
Look, 213 yards rushing for a rushing defense a year ago that was top 5 in the NFL. The line of scrimmage was not won by the Saints defense. That's tough, but it is the preseason opener. They will get better. But they had some opportunities early, and when they didn't capitalize, I can recall Demario Davis on that blitz just kind of ran right by Cousins, and he was able to kind of get out there and get the first down. So not the best effort, but I do think there's plenty of time to improve.
Does it matter that they were, as they say, very vanilla in the preseason, especially game 1?
Yes and no. I think, you know, at the end of the day, you have to be able to still detail your work, and that's where you have to be able to go out and do what you're supposed to do as a football player. So just because you didn't game plan doesn't mean that you can't go out and give maximum effort and know what you're doing and understand what you're doing.
Headline number 2, Marcus Davenport does not deliver. He struggled to get pressure from the end. Is it too early to panic about how he played or didn't play well, Sean?
I just haven't seen any flash plays from him yet. And it's hard to gauge a defensive end during practice because you can't really sack a quarterback. But I can't recall too many times where I've seen an elite first step. He didn't really have any flash plays against Minnesota. That's not to say if they go back and grade the tape that he hadn't had some moments that don't necessarily show up on the stat sheet where he's played well. I'm not ready to panic, but I'm not ready to heap praise either. I just think it kind of is what it is right now in Davenport. He's still very much learning that position, that style of play. Remember, he played a lot of stand-up in college. So it's not an excuse, but I still think there's a learning curve with Marcus Davenport.
I agree with you. You know, at times the quick pass game will get you, but as well, you know, there were times that he was double teamed. But at the end of the day, you know, you want him to be able to flash. You feel like that he has that type of talent, and that's probably, you know, the one thing that you didn't see. It's not a disappointment, but at the same time, you know that he has to continue to develop and has to come on as far as growth is concerned.
As a guy that's looking at from a former NFL player's eyes, like Pat Swilling told us early in the week, he says that Marcus Davenport needs to develop a move. The bull rush is not going to work every time, and it seems like a thing he's relying on too much.
Well, and I think he's done a pretty good job of that in the offseason, but that's the first move that he goes to as far as his bull rush. And, you know, NFL guys, they're going to be strong as well as sometimes as he is. So for him, what are your counter moves? You know, can you beat a guy with speed? Do you have a swim? Do you have an up and under? Those are things that he's going to have to continue to develop, and not to say that he didn't want to show him that game, but, you know, the more that you have in that toolbox, the better.
Lack of competitive at the level he played college football have anything to do with that, Sean? Or are we past that now a year in?
Yeah, I mean, what he did in college really is kind of irrelevant at this point. I just think he's a professional now. And look, his first year, he was banged up a little bit, kind of got a little bit of a pass, but now it's year 2, and this is a guy they spent a lot to bring in here because they wanted him to be the guy opposite of Cam Jordan. And look, I've said it many times, I feel like his development, if it doesn't come in year 2, this defense as a whole could suffer. So I think he's very important to the defense in that regard.
I think you're right. Headline number 3, the good and the bad for Teddy Bridgewater. He looked his most comfortable since he's been a Saint, but do you still need to see a little bit more from him, Deuce?
Yes and no. I think the more that he can go out and play, the better he is going to be. And I think the biggest fuss is him holding the ball. And I think some of that comes with maybe the routes that the Saints are running. Are those the best routes for him and his talent? The other part of it is just understanding and getting those reps, because it's still 3 quarterbacks in camp, so he's not getting every rep like he would as a starter. But I think it's a good starting point for him.
I think so too. I think it was his best night of camp. I'll have a film study on him a little bit later. But I didn't heap too much praise. I thought he had a very good night, but I didn't heap too much praise because I haven't seen it this type of play every day in practice yet. It's been a little bit random as far as the big plays. I can recall one practice where he really kind of took over, one of the practices when Drew was down, but I haven't seen it in its totality. So I do think he had a very good night, but I still need to see a little more.
Reps.
Absolutely.
Yep. Headline number 4, speaking of reps, we'd like to see Eric McCoy get a few more reps. He got to start at center in the preseason opener. Your thoughts on his first game action, Sean?
Thought he looked good. There was some plays where, especially in the run game, where he's moving the pile forward, taking on that nose tackle, or if it was combo blocks, what have you. I know there was one play, he got a little lost in his technique. He had the block made, but then the defender was able to kind of shake him and get to the quarterback. But overall, the moment's not too big for him. He's not sticking out in a bad way. I mean, I think he's fitting nicely. I think it's come to him pretty easy. Looks like right now this was a pretty good pick.
When you're not calling his name, I think that's a good sign as far as him having mental mistakes or him having snapping issues, and I think he's only going to continue to get better. There were moments, like you said, Sean, that he knows he's probably got to play a little lower, or he sees the quickness and power in this game, but the moment is not too big for him, and he's got a bright future in this league.
Deuce, at what point does the ability to be able to make the right play call with the line need to come in for him? Does it happen in his preseason, or is it something that just develops over time in the regular season once he's in there as a starter?
Well, it will happen during the preseason, but it'll also happen, the more reps that he gets as well. We talked about Teddy getting those type of reps. The more reps he gets as far as center and the looks that he sees, the more comfortable he'll be.
Okay, headline number 5, special teams, sizzles. Sean, Deontay Harris was a baller.
Thought he helped himself. He kind of was out of sight, out of mind because he got hurt so early in camp. But all of a sudden, ball comes to him. He finds the hole, and boom, he's gone. And they haven't had a kickoff returner. You don't get a lot of kickoff returns anymore in the NFL, but they haven't had a kickoff returner really since maybe Sproles. And then, yeah, nice punt return as well. Look, the special teams units on this team are superb. The one thing they were missing was a return guy. Deontay Harris helped himself. And I'll say this, Marcus Sherrills, I don't know what he's dealing with right now. He's got to get healthy, or he could be on the outside looking in here.
Well, he's dealing with health-wise, and that's something that he's going to have to be able to overcome and come back. But Harris definitely let you know that he's going to be a contender in this race as far as to be the returner.
Yeah, good start for him. See how I can do going forward here. All right, coming up, see for yourself what Teddy did well and where he needs to improve as Sean Vazan breaks down the film. And later, our mailbag is overflowing with questions, including concern over the replacements for Mark Ingram. We'll get into all of that next.
You're watching the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership.
Welcome back in, and before we get to talking tape with Sean Vazan, Sean, you and Mike from Slidell must have been watching the game together, because Mike's question is, although Teddy Bridgewater looks pretty good, do you think he is holding the ball maybe a half second too long? Again, Mike from Slidell.
That is a good point, Mike. You know what? The tape is in. It was an overall good night for Teddy Bridgewater with a lot to like and some things that also need some improvement.
When Teddy Bridgewater is making quick decisions, he's at his best. There were several examples of this on Friday. His first was his first pass of the game. First read wasn't there, and he went right to his check down to Alvin Kamara. But they weren't just throws to backs where his decisive play showed up. Here's one off the line. He read the coverage and hit Simi Cobbs on a slant. His best throw of the night was his deepest, and it was a product of another quick decision. Right off the snap, Bridgewater knew where he was going and fired a strike to Cyril Grayson on the sideline. His worst throw came down to timing a few plays after that. Bridgewater bypassed his check down and tried to go back over the middle to Austin Carr. This was dangerous, and it nearly cost him. The throw was late, and the defender nearly made an interception. But Bridgewater's most notable flaw was his tendency to hold on to the ball too long. Here are a few examples. It happened on the first drive, when he took the snap, went through his reads, and should have thrown it away or hit Kamara on his check down. Instead, he waited a count too long and took a nasty hit for the sack. Luckily, a penalty negated it. In the second quarter, Bridgewater did it again. This time, he has ample protection, but doesn't trust what he sees downfield. And instead of using his check down to the flat to Jacquez Rogers, he tries to reload to make a throw to the opposite side, but is too late and gets sacked.
Overall, as we said, it was Teddy's best performance as a Saint. The key now is to string a few of these plays and performances together. But I think overall it was a pretty good night. But look, the holding the ball on too long, I think that was pretty obvious throughout the game. But Deuce, when he's quick, making those decisions right off the line of scrimmage, I think that's when he's at his best.
And whether it's play action or in a drop back pass game, he's got the arm strength to be able to get it there. So you're not concerned of that. I think it's the reps. You know, the more reps that he's going to get, the better and the more comfortable he's going to feel.
I have to ask you, and I've asked Sean this before, who is Teddy Bridgewater playing for right now? I mean, I know he plays for the Saints, but every good performance he puts in, who is he putting in that performance for?
Don't start this one.
I'm just saying. It's tricky going forward, I get it.
Other teams are going to evaluate it, and they're going to see it. I mean, and at some point, you know, if it doesn't work here, he's going to have opportunity in other places.
Telling me don't go there. I gotta go there.
He's going.
I have to. All right, still to come, the ups and downs of preseason were epitomized by the performance of Dan Arnold, who hauled in a touchdown and handed one over to the Vikings. You want to know what to do with him? We'll discuss next. And Saints fans who want to see their team spirit on television can head to the Final Play app to submit a picture. Just click the menu, scroll down to Submit Your Saints Pics page, and from there, just follow directions. Tune in throughout the season to see your Who Dat passion on display.
You're watching the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership.
Welcome back into the Review Show. We've had a ton of questions from you, the viewers, so it's time to play Santa Claus in August. Submitted on the Final Play app using that final word feature. Our first question comes from TJ from Parts Unknown. He says, Latavius Murray doesn't seem as explosive as Mark Ingram. Will the Saints miss Ingram?
Latavius Murray is explosive. Now, you know, I hate to compare him as far as he and Mark as far as players and who can gain what type of yards, but he is a big physical back. He's shown us that he can catch. You feel good about him in pass protection. You know, he's going to have to get comfortable in this offense, but I think that he's going to be a pretty good player for the Saints.
I liked his debut. I really did. I thought he had a solid preseason debut, some tough runs inside. He's a different kind of player, different build than Mark Ingram, so they just look differently physically, but he can go when he gets to that second level. Plus, he catches the ball a lot better than his prior stat sheet would indicate. So the Saints want him to catch the ball in the backfield. He's done so. I think overall it was a pretty good signing. Will they miss Mark Ingram? I mean, time will only tell. But for right now, I think Latavius Murray is a good signing.
It seems like to me this is a case of we've seen a lot of Mark Ingram.
Right.
We know what he brings to the table. We're used to seeing that. We haven't seen much of Latavius Murray. We don't know what he brings, and we're impatient on waiting to see what he brings. That's a typical case of that.
You don't want to upset the dynamic of he and Alvin, you know, having that outstanding, really back-to-back years as they've had, and so you bring someone else in new, you don't know if he can do it, and so there's questions until you see him go out and do it.
Sean, we talked about the third running back and what Sean Payton's kind of doing with that. How much do they need a third running back in
Absolutely.
this offense?
I think the wear and tear at that position alone, the way you use Alvin Kamara, Deuce, they ran a lot of that they called it the pony package last year, where it was two backs in the game at the same time. I think absolutely you need a guy that can come in and be a third running back, whether it's to catch the ball out of the backfield, contribute on special teams, some tough yardage inside. But I think it's absolutely necessary within this offense.
How much do you think, Deuce, having a third running back that's capable would kind of help manage the impact and the load you put on Alvin Kamara?
I think it helps, but at the end of the day, you've got to keep Alvin involved as much as possible.
You want him on the field on third down, don't you?
Well, you want him on the field on third down, but, you know, if he does have some type of nick in a game, you have to be able to have someone else that can step in as well.
Our next question, and we're staying on offense with this, Jeff Sansing, all the way out in Arizona. Thanks, Jeff. With Jared Cook as the starting tight end, what do you think about Dan Arnold? He seems to be inconsistent. You don't know what will happen when Drew throws to him. A great individual effort for a TD, then just tosses it up for a pick six. Should Sean Payton consider waiving him?
I think they'll let his play speak for him. Obviously, the pick six on that one, he's just got to look the football in. The effort is there on the touchdown pass, and that's what you like about him. The inconsistency, he just has to continue to be more consistent as a player. Right now, I think he does have some time. It'll be on Sean and Coach Dan Campbell as far as the patience they have with him. But they've liked him as far as a player because they've kept him around, and they've continued to try to develop him, to see if he can continue to be a playmaker for him.
Here's what I would tell Dan Arnold. Take a breath, relax, stop fearing making a mistake so much. It just feels like when he makes a good play, you can see the excitement when he's kind of thinking about it and fearing things, upsetting his quarterback, upsetting his coach. Bad things seem to happen. I mean, this is kind of a fluke play here, but I would just say calm down, take a deep breath, have confidence, you know what you're doing, and go out and just play free, because it just feels like he's burdened a little bit right now. He goes out and plays free, I think he's got a chance.
It seems to me when you look at this tight end room, they've got everything they want in tight ends. You've got Josh Hill, who's a good guy who can catch the ball, but also a good blocker. Obviously, Dan Arnold can catch the ball, become a better blocker. Hopefully, Jared Cook, he's going to be your offensive weapon there. Alize Mack, does he factor in there at all?
He's got to get healthy. I mean, he hasn't been around in a while. I thought he was really looking good the first week of camp. I thought between him and Dan Arnold, he kind of had the nod in that third tight end battle. Now he's kind of been gone for, about 8 or 9 practices and obviously missed the game. He's just got to get healthy because, as they say, Deuce, the best availability, and he just hasn't been available right now.
Hard to make the club in the tub. And so if you're not out there performing, it's hard to get evaluated.
You're right. All right, next question from George and Metri. Simply wants to know, why didn't Emmanuel Butler play in Friday night's game? Simple thing, it's injury, but he's been good.
He was injured. He had just came back 2 days prior to the game, so they wanted him to be 100% and not go out there in a preseason game and maybe possibly hurt himself some more. So I think, to miss that first game, they were okay with that. They had seen enough in some of the earlier practices, and so they wanted him either close to 100% or 100% before they put him back on the field.
Yeah, it was all about injury. But I'll say this, when he went back to practice, that first full practice, Sunday, he picked up where he left off, so he looked good.
Has Emmanuel Butler, to you, been the biggest eye-opening player, first-year player in this camp?
Yes, I think he was the guy no one saw. It was on no one's radar, and all of a sudden he burst on the scene, got hurt, but came back. I still think he's got a very good chance of making this team.
I agree with you, and he's probably the biggest undrafted rookie first-year player. I think the most impressive is probably a tie, and that would be Gardner and Chauncey Gardner, as well as Eric McCoy, because I think both of those guys can contribute.
Okay, all right, up next, more questions, this time on the defensive side of the ball, where we try to figure out the best combination of cornerbacks. And be sure to subscribe to the Fox and Overtime podcast for more Saints analysis on demand. You can find our podcast, the normal spots, fox8live.com, the Final Play app, and of course, wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Ford dealers. You're watching the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership.
I told you we've gotten a bunch of questions before last Friday's preseason game, and especially after that. And our next question comes from Rayshawn Hills. He wants to know, do you guys think that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson can start over Eli Apple?
If he would start, it would be in a cornerback role. It would be at nickel. Eli Apple's on the outside. I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is a talented defensive back and has versatility, but I think he's more of a safety/nickel as opposed to an outside corner. So I think if Gardner-Johnson did start, it would be at the nickel position.
Too hard, too soon on Eli?
No, I'm just going to say no. I don't. I mean, he's a big nickel when they go into that defense. He's a third safety. He's not an outside guy as far as corner. Eli, it's the one play that everyone remembers, and so to have him replaced with a rookie, that's not going to happen.
Does Eli have enough competition in his position right now?
He's had a good camp.
Yeah.
I think he's had a good camp, Deuce.
He's had a pretty good camp. Like I said, it's the one play that everybody sees, and so you almost have flashbacks to the first part of the season. But I think he's had a pretty good camp overall.
Let's move on to our next question from down in the Bayou, Homa, from Josh. He wants to know if the Saints should bring in a veteran pass rusher.
Well, they don't grow on trees. And,
and people seem to think they do.
If they're available right now, I don't know how talented they might be. I think the best case scenario is there's a surprise cut at cut down day, a